Hi, my name is Roberto Tamarchio. I'm with the Autodesk Tech Support team, and today's video will be in creating a design feature called Washout. This is an overview on what we're going to be doing today. This tutorial will show you a way to build surfaces to describe a design feature that we can see today on several cars. It's a combination of two different shapes that has to flow together. We call this a washout. The first section is patch layout and curve creation. We'll draw out the layout of the surface that we need to create. We'll then create curves that will be positioned for surface creation. The second section is surface creation. We'll create transitional surfaces for both side body panels. We'll create secondary transitional surfaces. We'll then show you how to find a blend that helps extend the natural flow of the feature or the highlights. The third section is filleting. We'll create the fillet that will wash out onto the blend following the feature line. Section 1. In this section, we'll draw the patch layout and create the curves. Key learning objectives: draw a patch layout, create helper curves that will be used for positioning the surface creation, using the curves for positioning the curves on surfaces. This technique is quite successful to hold the entire structure clean and with history as long as possible. All the curves projection that will be made have to be done in side view. Okay, here we have the surfaces we're going to be working with. We have the wheel arch, the shoulder, and the side body panel. So I'm going to draw out the patches. Our first patch will be this right here. Please excuse if the lines are not straight as I am using a mouse. Okay, so that's surface 1. So what we're trying to create is the bigger surfaces first. Our second one will run this way. So that's surface 2. Our third one, I'm going to detach the surface over here. Then what I'll do is extend this feature line and we'll create a surface in here. I'll show you how to do that. And the fourth surface will be cutting across here, and then we'll have a surface in there. And finally the fillet that will run along the feature line, and it will finish somewhere in there. Before we start creating the curves, I want to make sure that I'm working with the correct construction options. So I go to Preferences, Construction Options, and I want to make sure that I have CATIA V5 tolerances. Yes, we are working with pretty tight tolerances, and they are commonly used for Class A work. Another note I want to make is we are going to be using Autodesk Alias Automotive to do this tutorial. So some of the tools that you might see will not be available in Alias Service or Alias Design. Okay, let's start creating some curves here. I'm going to create some 2-degree curves, and I will snap one over here and one down here. Now the reason why I'm creating 2-degree curves is because it gives me 3 CVs. So when I align to the surface edge, I'll have perfect curvature. So a nice extension of the edge. Okay, I'm going to align them. I want to make sure I have curvature selected, and we align the first one, and we align the second one. Okay. Now the third curve I'm going to create, I'm going to use this line perpendicular tool, and what it does is it gives me a perfect 90-degree angle between the surface edge and the curve. I'm going to extend that curve, and now we're ready to project. And the second one, we'll get rid of the curves. Okay, now we're ready to create our surface curves. I'm going to use 3-degree curves. Now the previous curves were just helper curves, which helped me define these curves on surfaces. Okay, perfect. So now we are ready to create our surfaces. And first I will go and save the file. Section 2. In this section, we're going to create the first transitional surface. Key learning objectives, creating the surface that will connect the shoulder and the radial opening. We'll be showing you a technique using a combination of the square tool and the align tool to create a good quality surface. So we're ready to create our first transitional surface. What I'm going to do is pick the surfaces that we need and the curves, and we'll hide everything else. We're going to use the square tool to give us a surface, and we'll pick the 4 sides. Okay, and as you can see here, we have a pretty heavy surface, 27 spans. Let's see what we can do with the explicit control. Okay, we have a 5-4 degree, and we're still feeling position on top. If we increase this, okay, doesn't make it any better. As I can see here, the gap is on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to 5-4, and I'm going to detach the surface and use the align tool and realign it. That should fix my positional problem. Okay, so I'll use the detach tool over here and detach it somewhere around here. We'll delete the locators. We don't need the surface anymore, and we're going to use the align tool. Okay, we want positional, edge, and partial on. Okay, so we got positional and we got 5-4. Let's see if we can get curvature. Okay, when we have curvature, we want to make sure we have vector on and the y direction. Okay, so 5-4. Let's see if we can do 5-3. Okay, this is good. I'm happy with that. So I'm pretty happy with the surface, and we're ready to create our second surface. We'll save the file. Section 3. In this section, we're going to create the second transitional surface. Key learning objectives. We'll create a surface that will connect the radial opening to the body side surface. We'll create a helper surface to maintain surface continuity and parameterization. We'll be showing you a technique using a combination of the square tool and the align tool to create a good quality surface. So we're ready to create our secondary transitional surface. I'm going to pick the curves and the surfaces that we need and hide everything else. Now here we have a curve and snapped onto the surface edge, but I have nothing really to align this curve to. So I'm going to create something that's called a helper surface. I'm going to use the extend tool with the merge option off and extrapolate on. And we'll extend the surface here and the curve. Okay, we're going to go to side view and project it. Okay, get rid of the curve, and I want to make sure that this seat here is snapped onto the curve on surface, and we're ready to align. We want curvature. Okay, and we'll do the other side as well. Perfect. We're ready to create our surface. We'll use the square tool. Okay, so here we have a surface that's got 15 spans. Now we want to try and create a one span surface. So let's see if the explicit control is going to do it for us. Okay, so we want 5, 4 as we only need 4 CVs. 6, 7 is not going to do it. Okay, the gap is getting smaller. 9. So the square tool is not going to do it for me. I'm going to try using the align tool. So I'm going to go back to 5, 1. Delete the locators. And use the align tool. Okay. 5, 1. Give it 4 CVs. And let's try to increase this. Okay, again, the gap is getting smaller. Okay, so I can do it with 6 spans. So what I'm going to have to do is detach the surface somewhere around here to create 2 different patches. I'm going to go back to my 5-1 surface and detach it. We'll delete the locators and we'll detach the surface. Okay, somewhere around there. We'll use the align tool again. Now we want partial on and edge align. Give it 4 CVs. 6, 7. Okay, let's ask for curvature. And with curvature we want vector and in the y direction. Okay, perfect. Let's do the next one. Okay, we want ask for position first, edge, partial on. Okay, 5, 4, 6, 7. Okay, I still think I can do it with 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little trick. We'll delete these locators here. I'm going to untrim the surface here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the project normal tool. I'm going to project the surface edges at a tolerance lower than what we have. Now the reason why I'm using the project normal tool is because the CVs between the two surfaces are very close together. Now if it was further away, I would use the project tool. So I'll select the surface. First we need to delete the curve on surface here. Reselect the tool. And project the edges. Okay, we'll trim them now. And realign it. Okay. So before we didn't make it with 7, now we did. Let's see if we can do 6. There we go. 5, no, 5 is not going to do it. Now we're going to ask for curvature, vector on and in the y direction, and we got it down to 6. Let's see now the other surface here. Okay, 7. Wow, there we go, 6. So we got that down as well. Okay, we don't need the surface anymore. or the curves. We'll assign it to our, okay. We'll make everything else visible. And we're ready to move on. We'll save the file. File, save. And we're ready to do the next step. Section 4. In this section, we're going to blend the first transitional surfaces to the secondary ones. Key learning objectives will connect the orange colored secondary transitional surfaces to the greenish ones that we created. We'll also show you how to do some CV manipulation in order to create an ideal collinear continuity between the two surfaces. So we're ready to create our first blend surface, which will blend the primary and the secondary transitional surfaces. What I'm going to do here is create a 2-degree curve, and here we're trying to just extend the flow of the feature line. Okay, I'm going to use the Align tool, and we'll align it to this edge. Again, all this is doing is giving a natural extension. Okay, we're going to go to Side View, and we're going to project. We don't need the curve anymore. Now I'm going to create a 5-degree curve. And align it. Okay, we want curvature on this side. And we'll do the same on the other side. Perfect. Okay. And now we're ready to create our square. Okay, so we want positional. Okay. We'll pull it on explicit control. Get 5, 5. We're going to ask for curvature on 1. 2 is going to stay fixed, and on 3 we're going to ask for curvature. And 4 will stay fixed. Okay, I am happy with that. Now, as you can see here, there might be a little bit of a dip in the surface. Right there. So we're going to do a little bit of CV manipulation. I'm going to take this surface here and delete construction history. Okay, and I'm going to use the Move CV tool. Now I want the mode to be X, Y, Z, and to have a lock on the X and Z direction. So I want only movement in the Y. We're going to use a step size because when we're going to make very small movements. Now we got to be careful here that we don't break curvature. So this is our curvature CV there. So it will be positional tangent curvature. So let's see what happens when we move this one. Now watch this CV here when I do the movement. Okay, as you can see here, it's moving down. Okay, we're not breaking. Perfect. Okay, maybe that'll be a little too much, so we're gonna have to probably move this one a little bit. Okay, as you can see, we're almost okay. A little movement there. We'll move this one again. There we go. Okay. Let's try this here. I know it's a little bit dangerous, but we can make small movements just to make it look. There we go. So I'm pretty okay with that. Okay. There we have our surface, and we're ready to create the next one. We'll save the file and we'll move on. Section 5. In this section, we're going to blend the two secondary transitional surfaces in order to create a washout effect. Key learning objectives: creating the secondary transition that has to be curvature continuous to the three sides. So we're ready to create our secondary blended surface. As you can see here, we have a three-sided situation, so I cannot really make a square there, and I'll show you how to fix that. We're going to pick the curve that we have and delete its construction history. Okay, we're going to move the CV and we'll move the curve to the edge of this. We'll extend the curve. Okay, we'll merge on and we'll go to side view and project. The curve. Okay, we don't need a curve anymore, and we'll trim that out. Okay, so now we can create a square. We'll ask for fixed first. Okay, so we're going to ask for curvature on 1 and 2 on 3, and we're going to leave 4 fixed. I'm happy with 5, 5. We'll hide the CVs, delete the locators, and let's see what it looks like. I think this is pretty good. We have a nice flow of the highlights and pretty good extension there, and as you can see here, we have the washout. It's washing out onto the surface. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the fillet. Okay, before that we'll save the file and let's move on. Section 6. In this section, we're going to create a fillet running the tangential break and washing out to the blended surfaces. Key learning objectives: creating a fillet manually, so we'll extend and wash out. Okay, so we're ready to create our fillet. We're going to go to the Surface Fillet tool and we'll select the first surface, the second one, and hit Build. Okay, let's go through some of the options that I've used. So I've used chord fillet. What this does is lets me specify the distance between the two edges. If I had chosen radius, it gives me more of a rolling ball type of fillet where I can have control over the radius but not the distance between, so the width between the fillet. And I have quarter length. This is just a preference that I like to use. And the quarter distance, that is the width of the fillet, is 10. You can choose whatever you wish. And I have Bezier surfaces to on. My start is edge align, so it aligns it to the edges. And my end, I have edge align for now, but I want extend. Look at the difference here. It extends the surface. Okay, and I want to see the curve on surfaces because we will use those. Okay. We're going to select the fillet. Create a new layer and assign it to that. Okay, we're going to extend the curve on surfaces now by creating 2-degree curves. Okay, that's 2, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to align them. curvature. That's 1. And that's 2. Make sure we're in side view and project them. And we'll select this one as well. Okay. We don't need the curves anymore. And let's start to trim. That's 1. That's 2. And now the other side. Okay. So we're going to make the fillets visible again. We're going to zoom in here and create a 2-degree curve and snap it into there. We'll select the surface, go to side view and project that. We'll trim it out and we're going to trim convert that surface. Okay. We'll pick the original. Just make sure it's that one here. That's that one. We'll create a new layer and we'll just assign it to that one. Okay. So this is the trim converted one. Now we're going to delete the curve and duplicate this edge. We'll move the pivot and there, and we'll move the curve. Okay, I'm going to extend the curve. Just a little bit, and the other side. And we'll go side view again, make sure. And we're going to project. 1, 2. We don't need the curve anymore. We'll pick our CVs just to make sure they're snapped onto the curves and surfaces. Okay. And we can align it. And now we're ready to create our square in there. Okay. We're going to start with fixed. Put the CVs on. And we'll ask for tangent. And here 1 we want fixed again. Whoops, wrong one. Tangent 1 we want fixed. We want tangent and tangent. Okay, let's ask for curvature on top. So 2 is curvature and 4 is curvature. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm just going to delete the surface here. And over the years I noticed that if you build the bigger surfaces first, you get a much better result. So let's build a square in there. And we'll ask for curvature. Okay. That's pretty good. Let's go back in here and do the same thing. Again, let's start off from fixed. We want to make sure we have the square selected. Okay, we got positional. 2, we're going to ask for curvature, tangents, and curvature, and I'm pretty happy with that. We'll delete the locators. delete all the curves and the curves and surfaces. Okay. Let's shade this, see how it looks. Looks pretty good to me. There we go. We've created the fillet and it's washing out in there. It looks pretty good. And that is the end of the tutorial. And we'll save the file just to make sure. To summarize this lesson, what we learned is the way to get the final patch layout by following simple principles. Create the obvious first, and then creating the transitional surface, finding and creating a blend, and then extending the natural flow of the features or the highlights without disturbing the natural flow of the feature